Hi, I think you know that at Thunderbird, we want to set you up for success. We have the club handbooks, we have the regular handbook and the Zoom handbook. So it's important to check those to get more details on how to do the roles. And in addition, I'm going to talk about 4 of the roles that people tend to get after they have just joined the club. And those are the toast, the crutch word counter, the grammarian, and the chair. So what I'd like to do is just give you some best practices as far as I'm concerned about how to do those roles well. So let's start out with the toast. The toast is 1 minute in total. What people tend to do is to do a lot of preparation for a toast and to give like a university lecture. That is one of the problems. The other problem is have a long convoluted sentence at the end. What you want to do with this 1 minute is to base it on the theme of the meeting. So say the theme of the meeting is friendship. So in your toast, you might want to say a few things about friends and how important friendship is and that kind of thing. And at the end, you always say, ladies and gentlemen, please raise your glasses and join me in a toast to. This is where you have the opportunity to say good friends, lifelong friends, meaningful friendships, that sort of thing. What you don't want to do is, ladies and gentlemen, please raise your glasses and join me to the importance of friendship in our lives because we know that interpersonal relationships, blah, 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 blah. And people do this, okay? So keep it to 2 or 3 words. You could even have 1 word because people are raising their glasses and don't want to have to try to remember a lot of gobbledygook. So keeping it within the 1 minute time frame and a short last sentence, those are best practices for the toast. Onto the crutch word counter. Now, this is a hard role for some people, especially if English is not your native tongue. So with all of these roles, don't say, well, I'm crutch word counter tonight and I don't know how to do this and I'm really worried about it. No, we know anybody who does a role for the first time is going to find it challenging. You'll want to review the handbook. The reason that we do the crutch word counter role is blah, blah, blah. People tend to use so we recommend that you use a pause instead to collect your thoughts. When I do the crutch word counter role, I like to say that this is not about pointing fingers and shaming people to say, oh, so-and-so got 14 ums tonight. No, the reason that we do this role is so that people can understand what their default crutch words are and then clean up their speaking so it's easier for people to understand them and get their message. So that's really what's behind it. Referring to the handbook again for the script is good. And personally, I find it more useful if somebody says, and tonight I heard Lynn say so in between sentences 4 times. And, rather than, oh, I heard X number of so's and knows over the whole meeting. I don't think patterns are as useful for people as individuals learning about what their default crutch words are. That's my opinion. The grammarian rule. Also, check the handbook. This is hard too for non-native English speakers and some native English speakers. And the opportunity for the grammarian is to get practice public speaking by introducing your role and just doing your best to listen for alliteration, similes, metaphors. If you're not sure what those are, look them up and do your best. No need to apologize. If you hear only excellent use of English and no problematic uses of English, that's totally fine. You're just honing your ear to be able to listen and to help people speak more effectively, basically. And then you'll give your crutch word or your grammarian report at the end and a word of the day. Now, again, in my opinion, just choosing something that people use all the time, not that valuable. Choosing a very obscure word that 90% of the population doesn't understand, also not that valuable. If you can choose something that is not commonly used, but is something that will help us expand our vocabulary, that to me is the ideal word of the day. Again, there's nothing right or wrong about this. This is just, in my opinion, the most effective way to choose a word of the day. And finally, the chair role. Now, the chair is actually, I mean, none of these roles is a minor role. The chair is an important role because you open the meeting. It's you that will set the stage for the energy. So if you get the timer says 1 minute warning, and then you, okay, you know, 7 o'clock, and hi, tonight it's such and such a date. Welcome to Thunderbird. And if you start out like really slow and depressed, sets that tone for the meeting. So you don't want to be brittle and artificial, but if you can tap into your I'm really glad to be here energy, that will be a good start. There are certain things you have to cover in the chair role. They're on the agenda, things like going over any agenda changes, welcoming the guests. Now, I think when you're welcoming the guests, some people have never been to a meeting before and they have no idea what's expected in an introduction. For a Zoom meeting, if you say, could you give us 2 or 3 sentences about what brought you here tonight? That gives them guidelines. In an in-person meeting, you have to say, please stand and give us 2 or 3 sentences about what brought you here tonight. Of course, in the Zoom meeting, you have to stand. And then at the end as well, when you're asking for guest feedback, especially if somebody has been very chatty when they introduce themselves, if we're running late, just say 2 or 3 sentences about your experience of the meeting. Again, just giving them a container so they know what's expected. You're also going to, as I said, go over any agenda changes, and the Toastmaster will tell you that. A brief introduction to the theme of the meeting, and also with Zoom best practices like muting yourself when not called upon to speak. All of this is in the Zoom Club Handbook. It's pretty important, especially for guests to understand about the waving being instead of applause and that kind of thing. So with all these roles, these are important roles. They may be roles that the newer members take, but all valuable both for you and for the club. And just do your best. Ask somebody if you want to give you feedback privately after your role. There may be areas that you could improve and areas that you did very well. And again, following the club handbook is good. Sometimes people want to be very creative and do things differently, and that usually doesn't work very well. I always say save your creativity for table topic speeches and prepared speeches, and stick to the script and the program with assigned roles. So I hope that's helpful for those roles of Toast, Crutch Word Counter, Grammarian, and Chair. Bye for now.